Welcome to this explainer. If you've been following the news lately, you're well aware that gerrymandering, along with all those redistricting attacks and counterattacks, are threatening to deepen the partisan divide in the United States in real time. It's intense. But today, we're going to dive deeply into the source material's analysis of our political dysfunction to explore a really fascinating argument that changing our actual electoral architecture might be the ultimate way to enfranchise voters, elevate the level of debate, and frankly, safeguard our democracy. We literally see these intense partisan divides playing out on a daily basis. But the research asks a pretty compelling question. What if the core of the problem isn't just bad actors? What if the very system we use to elect our representatives is structurally designed to pull us apart? Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the zero-sum doom loop, then move on to the winner-take-all bug, the proportional antidote, defeating the extremist threat, and finally, how to fix it. Let's dive right into part one, the zero-sum doom loop and the sheer cost of our hyper-partisanship. So, the source materials highlight this concept that political scientists call affective polarization. And we're not just talking about respectfully disagreeing on tax policy or healthcare here. This is a deep, fundamental dislike. It's often viewing partisan opponents with this kind of reflexive hatred. In a really rigid two-party system, political competition basically becomes a zero-sum conflict. Because there's just no incentive for cross-party compromise, negative campaigning is heavily rewarded. It completely reduces our national debate to tribal hostility, which makes actually governing incredibly difficult. Moving on to part two, let's look at the winner-take-all bug, essentially the hidden pathogen in our elections. Picture this electorate for a second. Let's say 60% of voters want pizza, 30% want vanilla ice cream, and 10% want chocolate ice cream. Under our current winner-take-all system, the pizza candidates win 100% of the seats. They get all the representation, which artificially inflates their majority, while completely ignoring the 40% of voters who, wanted dessert. It's a tragedy for ice cream lovers for sure, but politically it means if you live in a district where your preferences are in the minority, your vote essentially vanishes. It just does not translate into representation. By relying on these single-member districts, our winner-take-all system naturally creates what are called safe seats. And when a district is permanently safe for one party, the only election that actually matters is the primary. Well, who votes in primaries? Usually the most highly mobilized, deeply partisan voters. This absolutely incentivizes candidates to appeal only to the extremes. And because it's a winner-take-all game, it triggers those relentless, real-time gerrymandering wars we're seeing right now. Politicians just manipulate district lines to guarantee they capture that 51% majority, effectively silencing everyone else. So how do we fix it? That brings us to part three, the proportional antidote, a structural solution. Instead of just one seat per district, proportional representation, or PR, shifts us to multi-member districts. Think 3 to 5 representatives per district instead of one. The goal here isn't to find a singular winner, but to allocate seats based on the actual vote share. So if a party gets a third of the vote, they get a third of the seats. Crucially, by using these larger multi-member districts, PR functionally kills the risk of gerrymandering. The district boundaries just stop mattering so much. Let's look at a real-world example from the data to ground this. Take Massachusetts. Right now, over a third of voters there consistently vote Republican. But because those voters are spread out across the state, and because we use a winner-take-all system, Democrats win all 9 congressional seats. Republicans win absolutely 0. But under proportional representation, those Republican voters would win exactly 3 seats. This completely enfranchises the political minority in that state. It proves that when seats match vote share, every single ballot actually counts, no matter where you live. And this shift fundamentally changes the level of debate in the country. I love this analogy from the analysis. Think of our current two parties as 2 giant magnets. When they move toward the extremes, they literally pull all the metal pieces, the voters, with them, creating this massive, tense divide. Proportional representation, on the other hand, acts like a bunch of smaller magnets. By injecting more viable parties into the system, it distributes the tension. If one party becomes way too extreme, voters can just attach to a different, nearby, moderate magnet. It breaks that binary, zero-sum conflict. Which leads us to a really crucial point in part 4, defeating the extremist threat and safeguarding against authoritarianism. In our current majoritarian two-party system, an extremist faction doesn't need a majority. They only need a fraction of support, say 20 or 30%, to completely commandeer a major party. Because it's a binary choice, moderates within that party are basically forced to either capitulate to the extremists or lose power entirely to the opposing side. The research explicitly notes this is a massive strategic vulnerability that allows authoritarianism to essentially hijack half of the political apparatus. But as the source text explores, proportional representation naturally isolates those extremes. Under PR, if an illiberal or extremist movement has 15% support, they might form their own party and win exactly 15% of the seats, but they don't get the keys to the whole castle. Mainstream pro-democracy parties from both the center-left and center-right can form what's called a cordon sanitaire, a sanitary cordon. They simply build a governing coalition without the extremists, effectively neutralizing their power to harm the democracy. Okay, I want to pause here for a second to bust a massive historical myth you've probably heard. People often claim proportional representation caused the fall of the Weimar Republic and the rise of the Nazis. That is factually false. At their absolute electoral peak in 1932, the Nazis won 37.3% of the vote. Proportional representation actually prevented them from winning an outright majority. If Germany had been using a winner-take-all system like ours back then, that 37% plurality would have artificially handed them 100% control of the legislature. Wild, right? All right, part 5, the million-dollar question. How do we actually fix this? What is the path to proportional representation? You know, a lot of people just assume we'd need to completely rewrite the Constitution to implement this. Surprisingly, we really don't. The U.S. Constitution does not mandate single-member districts at all. The founders actually left it up to Congress and the states. The system we're stuck with today is only enforced by a 1967 federal law called the Uniform Congressional District Act. That means we don't need some massive, nearly impossible constitutional amendment. We literally just need an act of Congress. And the sources outline a roadmap for exactly how to do this. Legislation like the Fair Representation Act. It offers a perfectly clear 3-step structural antidote. Step 1, repeal that 1967 mandate. Step 2, create multi-member districts where states elect 3 to 5 representatives per district. And Step 3, implement proportional ranked choice voting. This ensures that surplus votes transfer, no votes are wasted, and every single ballot actually matters in determining the final proportional makeup of our government. We'll leave you with this final thought from the research. We spend so much time yelling at the other side, stressing out, and panicking about the end of democracy. But if the source material is right, if the very foundation of our electoral system is structurally empowering extremes and fueling this divide, it leaves us with one incredibly provocative question. Is it time we stop blaming the voters and finally fix the architecture?